it's time for us to move on to our next enlightening session. We have with us Shri D. Raja, former member of Rajya Sabha, with us, and we also have Mr. Rakesh Sinha, former member of Rajya Sabha as well. We have two former members of parliament with us to have a very pertinent conversation on the Indian Constitution at 75. Is it stronger than ever, or is it under threat? I'm going to request our next panelists to please join us on stage. Mr. D. Raja, former member of Rajya Sabha, and Mr. Rakesh Sinha, former member of Rajya Sabha as well. The moderator for this session is Mr. Rishabh Gulati, Editor-in-Chief of NewsX. They will be discussing whether the Constitution at 75 is stronger than ever, or is it under threat.
Microphone,
sir. Rishabh, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Devika. Thank you. And yes, this is why we have gathered here, because it's the 75th anniversary of when the Constituent Assembly finished drafting the Constitution. Of course, it was adopted officially on the 26th of January 1950. But a big debate is happening in Parliament. 2 days for the Lok Sabha, then Monday, Tuesday, we pick it up in the Rajya Sabha. We are discussing the Constitution of this country. Is it an ode to the Constitution? Are we paying tribute to it? Or is there something substantive to actually debate and discuss? Let's pick up this conversation. Mr. D. Raja, we are constantly being told when opposition members now swear in, they carry a copy of the Constitution, that the Constitution is under threat. How is it under threat, sir?
Definitely, there are threats to the Constitution. You must have noticed during the Lok Sabha elections, one of the central themes in campaign was how to safeguard the Constitution. Because the very slogan, Char So Par, some leaders gave an impression if they get massive majority, they can replace the present Constitution, they can throw out the present Constitution. Definitely, there are threats to the Constitution. There are threats to the very foundational principles of Constitution. How to save the Constitution? Because it is not me, the prime architect of the Constitution, Dr. Ambedkar. When he was speaking while presenting the Constitution, he gave the caution, on 26th January 1950, India will become a democracy. That means government for the people, by the people, of the people. But the question is whether India will remain as a democracy with the Constitution, or we will lose the Constitution.
Okay, but
this is what Ambedkar said. Ambedkar also had such doubts. What is going to happen to Indian democracy, Indian Constitution?
Today, but Indian democracy is doing well, sir, because you're General Secretary of the CPI. When we look at countries that have gone communist, those are the countries that have become dictatorial, that have become autocratic. It's the Congress that imposed emergency in this country. Why do we feel suspicious? Is it the BJP that will demolish the Constitution? If anybody is to fear, it's the communists.
I do not agree. You have your right to articulate your views, but it doesn't mean I should agree, because Ambedkar was under pressure, I am telling you. When we won independence, partition took place. After 1 year, Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated. The work on the Constitution was going. Ambedkar was under tremendous pressure to declare India as a theocratic nation. Ambedkar emphatically rejected that idea of theocratic nation. In fact, you are taking the name of Communist Congress. I am taking the name of some Hindu communal forces. They forced Ambedkar to declare Hindu Rashtra. Ambedkar said, if at all Hindu Rashtra becomes a fact, that will be the greatest calamity for India. I am not saying, Dr. Ambedkar gave this warning, and that's what one should understand, how to safeguard our constitution.
Okay, but again, safeguard from what? So let me be devil's advocate with Rakesh Sinha as well. Rakesh Sinha ji, now 15 years, all right. There's another election that will happen in 2029. Does the BJP intend to rule forever? And if you get a 300, 400 majority again, will you convert India into Hindu Rashtra? Doesn't make a difference what the constitution says.
D. Rajaji is my good friend, but I like to correct him. In the entire discourse of the Constituent Assembly, there is not a single demand for Hindu Rashtra. Not a single member raised the issue. I don't know from where it may be in the communist dictionary. And the Constitution is not a dead book. It is a lively. And when Constitution is progressing or Constitution is being attacked, it's just by the behavior and the action of the ruling party. Tell me one instance since 2014, Narendra Modi ji came into power, that BJP or the Prime Minister did anything which is going against the Constitution. Rather, he's quoting Ambedkar. Dr. Ambedkar talked about the social democracy. A social democracy is not by slogan, it's by substance. By empowering women, by empowering the farmers, by empowering the Dalits and tribals, OBC, the Prime Minister created a situation for the social democracy. But I'm coming to the core question. Who attacked the Constitution? D. Rajaji is a communist, and he remembered that time the Communist Party was not divided, undivided Communist Party. First elected communist government in Kerala, led by EMS Namudripad. And Nehru had thrown out the elected government of Communist Party in Kerala. That time debate in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, you go through the debate. And it was the prediction of the Communist parties that if Congress Party would continue, the Constitution would be thrown out in the dustbin. I'm talking about the first amendment. After the enforcement of the Constitution, you see the two constitutions, American Constitution, our Constitution. America, the first amendment was the enlargement of the freedom of right, protection of the press, protection of the right to speak. But India, the first bill after 15 months of the Constitution was the curbing the press. And the Home Minister, the then Home Minister Rajaji told, just like a headmaster keeps a stick but does not like to use it, we are keeping a stick against the press. We will not like to use. So it is a progressive deterioration of the opposition politics led by Congress, which led the erosion of the constitutional value. I don't want to again and again remember emergency, but just one instance I will tell you. How cruel an emergency was and coercive emergency was, we cannot imagine. B.M. Sinha was a journalist. He was a very known journalist. He was arrested and his mother died. The reason of arrest was he was expected to spy his own colleagues and comrades, journalists. He refused. His mother died. He wanted to join the funeral of his mother. He was not allowed. So I think if you see the history of the Congress, and that time D. Rajaji's party, Communist Party of India, was completely in collusion with the Congress Party. They were, when Jayaprakash Narayan was fighting for the liberty of the people, democracy, then Communist Party and Congress Party was organizing international anti-fascist conferences in Patna and other places. So I think that for if any degeneration in the constitutional morality, I not say the degeneration of the constitution, constitutional morality, the communists and the Congress both are responsible.
Okay,
I say that communists are equally responsible. They don't have commitment for the constitution.
Okay, I'll give him a chance to respond, but before that, Rakesh ji, it is a conundrum because we are trapped in a loop. If during emergency the preamble is changed and words are added, if 40 years later you try to remove those words, you are being accused of tampering with the basic structure of the constitution. Why should the words secular and socialist be removed from the preamble?
You know, those people who again remember Dr. Ambedkar and says the Ambedkar's constitution should not be changed. I am reminding the people that in Constituent Assembly there was a member K.T. Shah. He brought the proposal that in the preamble of the Constitution, socialist and secular words should be added. It was Dr. Ambedkar who opposed. He said, no requirement, kindly don't imprison your future generation. Constitution, he said, Constitution is a mechanism for managing the governance. Constitution is not the mechanism to imprison the people. So I think that what if we are going to do, we are going to show our commitment for Dr. Ambedkar's values,
Okay,
words.
so Mr. Raja, why is it okay for an emergency government 40 years ago to change Dr. Ambedkar's constitution? Why was that okay?
Now, firstly, with all respect to my friend Rakesh, he is one of the learned persons in that camp. I must say, I'm not bringing things from communist dictionary. I can very well quote RSS dictionary. From Golwalkar to anybody, I can quote. I'm not doing that. The point is, we have a constitution. That constitution gives three definitions. One, India should continue to be a democratic republic, number one. Democratic republic. It means secular democratic republic. Two, Indian state should be a welfare state. State should ensure all means of livelihood to all its citizens, men and women. People should have the right to live with dignity. This is what Constitution says. Third, India, that is Bharat, union of states, union of states. In fact, originally Ambedkar talked about United States of India, but when he drafted the Constitution, he opted for union of states. Now, union is undermined, one nation, one elections. We can debate on those issues. But coming back to democracy and emergency, of course, emergency was opposed, we condemned, but the point now we are discussing, now what are we discussing? Why we discuss constitution? Why parliament should discuss constitution? We observed the 75th anniversary of the constitution.
Yes.
Everyone who went outside who saw Ambedkar statue touched his feet. But what is happening actually?
No, what is happening? What is the issue? What is happening that you're saying this is a red flag?
Listen to me. Constitution preamble says liberty, equality, fraternity.
But everybody agrees with that. Who disputes this?
Who is agreeing? What is happening in practice? Where is the fraternity? Why communal conflicts are taking? Why atrocities against Dalits, tribals are on increase? Why atrocities on women are on increase? Are we not responsible? If we have that commitment to Constitution, we should stand up for the welfare
but Mr.
of...
Raja, you critique your own country, but you don't critique China. You won't. Which communist country is a democratic country? You critique our own country, but why not critique the others who are communist countries? They're not democratic.
If you want to discuss communist countries, you have a separate discussion. I will have a discussion with you. And some people...
Is China a democratic country?
Some people ask me, oh, America is not welfare state. I asked, if America is welfare state, why black lives matter? Why that agitation emerged? Still it is continuing. So let us not discuss those. Let us discuss our own country. Our own country, India. We the people. We have the Constitution.
Okay.
And the Constitution says justice. Justice, social, political, and economic.
Okay.
And where is the... No, let me finish. Where is the justice? In India, what is the problem? Caste, patriarchy are major challenges.
Okay, let me take a question first. Let me take a question first, because this became controversial. Rakesh Sinha, you know this, sir, that just a few months ago a G20 was held, and for the first time we saw the placards that read Bharat. It didn't say India. Now there is a technicality because the constitution says India, that is Bharat. But people say first you do Bharat, then you add Hindu Rashtra, then you do Ram Rajya. That's what they fear.
You know, India is a unique country. Unique in the sense that others countries' history, you go through the history of any country of the world, It is a high 500, 600 years. India's history is time immemorial. At least 8,000 to 10,000 years you can easily characterize India's history. So it is their reconnecting with these civilizational roots. That is very important for the country. We cannot compare ourselves with USA, China, or Britain. We are reconnecting to the roots. This means reconnection with the ancient period. And I am remembering one of the person in the Constituent Assembly. He was from Odisha. He said that secular is a slippery word. This is being used by certain people just to bypass the ancient Indian culture. We just see the history of Congress party for last 7 decades, the governance of the Congress and communists. What happened? The ancient Indian history has been completely shrugged off from the history book. Now we know the sacrifice of Guru Tegh Bahadur. Can there be any parallel? A person is sacrificing his life for the freedom of religion, not for the Hindus. He was fighting for the freedom of religion. Can there be any parallel of Guru Gobind Singh, any father in the civilizational history of the world, not in India, not in Europe, entire civilizational history of the world, that he is sacrificing 2 sons, minor sons. What for? The freedom of religion. Dignity of the people. You cannot convert the people.
But that's the point.
So I'm just concluding. So India's history has been the history of suppression of the Hindus. And you just imagine that Hindu's population is going to be less than 50%. India can be automatically theocratic state, whether Islamic state or Christian state. I'm competing. And one question for the D. Raja, that you can you tell that the part of India, Bangladesh and Pakistan, once Afghanistan was part of India, and they are the theocratic state.
Okay,
we are secular because Hindus are in majority. The moment Hindus would be in minority, India would be a theocratic state.
Let him respond.
Like
D. Raja, respond to that.
Firstly, my friend referred to Mr. Shah in the Constituent Assembly. When Mr. Shah asked Ambedkar, why can't you put that word socialist? Dr. Ambedkar replied, what all I have said in the directive principles of state policy, they are nothing but socialism. Let him read what Ambedkar has said during Constituent Assembly debates. So I'm not getting into it. Then he says Hinduism is the oppressed religion. How can you say that oppressed religion? If you ask me, who oppressed Dalits? Who oppressed Dalits? Who oppressed tribal people? Even today, why our women are passing through such miseries? Dalits I am talking. That is why Ambedkar said annihilation of caste. He just doesn't say.
But the point Rakesh Sinha made, that undivided India under the British went up to Afghanistan. Look at Afghanistan, look at Pakistan, look what's happening right now as we speak in Bangladesh. These are unhappy things.
No, division took place. Now let us focus on our country, India, our nation, Mother India. Let us focus on India.
Okay.
And India, we have...
I want to flip the...
Listen.
Yes, please.
India, we have several religions. And we must have religious harmony, communal harmony. That is what has been said in the Constitution, Article 25. Then you go another subsequent articles.
Okay, we are all believers in religious harmony, so let me turn the question around.
No, people have the right to follow any faith.
I have limited time, so I want to...
We should uphold that right.
Okay, let me turn the question around. Rakesh Sinha, we are seeing a constitutional crisis in Sri Lanka, constitutional crisis in Bangladesh. Nepal has just come out of constitutional crisis perpetually in Pakistan, you in South Korea. Is it not reasonable for the opposition to say that even the constitution as it exists 75 years later should not be taken for granted? It needs to be protected constantly.
No, the question is that when a opposition party is talking, just BJP demanded or aspires for a debate in the Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. What is the debate? George Soros, a 94-year-old billionaire, is declaring from Europe that he would destroy Narendra Modi government. Who is he? Democracy and sovereignty are not threatened by the men in uniforms. It is also threatened by the men without uniform, and George Soros is example. There is a relationship between George Soros and the Congress. And one question to D. Rajaji, he is talking about Dalit. Communist Party and Congress Party have alternatively ruled in Kerala. and there is tremendous untouchability. Who is responsible? Why not you are bringing social legislation?
Okay.
So I think that it is a communist and Congress hypocrisy
Okay.
when they
All
talk
right.
about
I'm out of time.
Constitution.
I'm out of time.
No,
30-second response, Mr. Raja. Last word.
No, my friend should know. He refers to Kerala. I am telling you, Kerala is the #1 state as far as literacy is concerned. Why it happened? Here, many learned people are there. They must know. There was one revolutionary, I.N. Kali. He represented Dalits. He started the agitation. He did not ask, open the gates of temple, this temple, that temple. He said, open the gates of school. My children should go. My untouchable children should go and read. That is how Kerala moved to this extent and emerged as #1 state as far as literacy is concerned. The other thing, he brings so many issues. I can ask the electoral bonds. I was in Parliament. When it was brought, I opposed it. Mr. Arun Jaitley was the finance minister. Then it was brought as a finance bill.
Okay.
Now who gained through the electoral bonds? Even the Supreme Court has said it is unconstitutional. It is BJP
Okay.
which looted and
Okay.
amassed
All right.
money through electoral
I know
bonds.
this is a never-ending conversation. We've run out of time, and I know this conversation will happen in Parliament. I know it'll continue with you two gentlemen as well. There are so many hot topics, but for engaging with us on it, we'll leave the open questions to pick up on the next session as well. Rakesh ji, Mr. D. Raja, thank you so much for taking out time for the third Law and Constitution Dialogue, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will have discussion on specific issues.
For sure, sir. We'll sit down. Look forward, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much once again, Mr. D. Raja and Mr. Rakesh Sinha, for joining us. Please do accept a token of our appreciation for joining us at the third Law and Constitution Dialogue. That's a copy of the Indian Constitution being presented to Mr. D. Raja, and we also have a photograph of the first session of the Constituent Assembly. Could we please have a round of applause for Mr. D. Raja and Mr. Rakesh Sinha? Thank you so much once again to both the gentlemen.